So you quit your job without having any idea of what you were going to do.
That's right.
Wow.
No idea.
No idea.
Yeah. Like if you think about Koala, the
Yes.
furniture brand, or Eva, they revolutionized furniture. And furniture is not inherently like a sexy, cool
No.
thing, shiny thing, right? Uber, they turned a business out of taxis. No one really thinks about that. We thought, let's take a commoditized product, let's make something unsexy, let's turn something unsexy sexy.
We're in the car and we literally just got out and we are both frazzled because we're like, oh my God, we had an opportunity and we think we lost it. Daniel was like, all right, we've lost it. Let's figure out what went wrong. And between you and me, let's figure out the things that you did wrong, I did wrong.
Hello crew, let's talk about the climb but not just the peak. I'm Loveth and this is Fail Tales. Today, for the first time ever, I have two guests, Daniel, Joe and Justin Jang. Thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
Happy to be here.
They are two consultants turned founders who've traded corporate clarity for the chaos of startup life. Daniel's career has spanned law, public sector strategy and management consulting. But alongside that, he's launched a string of ventures from a sustainable clothing label to a tech startup that uses smartphone cameras to size your feet for the perfect shoe fit. And Justin's background is in organizational design and transformation, helping leaders bring structure and focus to complex problems. But now they've started on a new venture together as co-founders of Attentv, and the two are taking on the new challenge of reinventing how out-of-home advertising works by helping pubs, bars and hotels turn their TVs into local ad networks. Wow, what a background. I'm keen to dive into them both, but starting with Daniel, you've had two different startups attempts. Can you take me back to one of those ideas? Where did it come from and what happened?
So I'll take you back to a tech startup I was doing. So a few years ago, me and three others, we decided to try and build this technology that would help you measure your feet when you buy shoes online, and it would recommend the shoe size that fits you perfectly. So the idea was you'd take your smartphone, you'd scan your foot, and when you're buying shoes on Nike or shoes on Adidas or Foot Locker or whatever, it would tell you exactly what the shoe size was.
Where did this idea come from? Was it a problem you were trying to solve, an experience either of you
Yeah,
had?
so it started off with my co-founder at the time, Jono Kingsley. He and I, we were exploring different ideas, and we thought, like we both like purchasing stuff online, and we've always had trouble finding shoes that fit perfectly. Like I always go into store. Jono, his experience was I think he was buying some boots, and he had to buy them overseas.
Okay.
And they were very expensive. He ordered them. They didn't fit him properly when they arrived, and it was just a hassle for him to return these shoes overseas. And so we thought, there must be so much loss and wastage as a result of buying imperfectly fitting shoes while shopping online. So we thought, okay, well, tech and AI has kind of gotten to a point where it's actually pretty good. If you use your smartphone to measure if you use your iPhone to measure something on the floor, it can actually measure it really, really accurately. I think it's like the measurement tool on iPhones. So we thought, why can't we apply this into a retail context? And when people are buying shoes online, we can help them find the perfect fit. So that was the genesis and the origin of the tech startup.
Sounds really cool. Were there any sort of big wins along the way? Any exciting milestones that you achieved?
Yeah, there was a couple. So Jono and I, we both come from a commercial background. So we had zero technical experience. We had no idea how to do this.
Wow.
So we had to find a couple of people who had the technical skills to be able to build this for us. Our first win was actually partnering with the university. So
Okay. In
we
WA?
partnered in Melbourne.
Okay.
So we partnered with Swinburne University. So Swinburne actually does a really cool program where they get final year students to take on projects from industry. Jono knew a professor in the computer visioning department at Swinburne University, and he pitched the idea to him, and he said, "This sounds like a great project for our students. Why don't you guys come and join us? We'll give you a student group to help build a prototype." So our first win was actually getting this group of students to build a prototype. It was okay. It was pretty decent, but it wasn't perfect. And so we got them to build it, and then we realized actually it's not ready to move into like a commercial context and sell to retailers, which is when we had to then find somebody else to come on board and help build it out for us even further. So that was our second win. And then our third win was getting an investor. He was a guy I used to work with at NAS Group where we worked together.
Okay.
And I pitched the idea to him. He loved it. He had a few contacts in the retail world. So he came on board and then started introducing us to kind of big retailers and shoe distributors in Victoria.
Wow, that sounds huge.
Mm.
It sounds like things were going really well. What happened? Where did things start going south?
Yeah, it was going really well. We had the opportunity to actually pitch the idea to the CEO of, they're called Accent Group, who own and distribute the shoes on behalf of like Foot Locker and Platypus Shoes and all these other retail businesses. Where we came apart was, I think, two things. The first one was we were all doing this part-time.
Okay.
So Jono and I, we had full-time jobs, and the other two guys that we were working with, they were also working full-time. So we were all doing this off to the side. And I think when you're doing startups and you're trying to balance that with full-time work as well as have a social life, have a relationship with your partner, I think it becomes really difficult. And so being able to devote the time needed to build a startup was, first off, really challenging. And then the second thing was the technology at the time wasn't advanced enough. Like, I think in startup world, there's a really important concept of like being in the right place at the right time. And I think we were a little bit too early because we got the technology working. It was scanning feet, but it wasn't scanning the feet accurately enough because if you think about shoes, like trying to find the perfect size shoe, a half centimeter or a centimeter is the difference between a half size or a full size shoe. And so we couldn't get it to that level of accuracy, which meant that whenever we were recommending a shoe size, it would always be a half size or a size too big or too small.
Yeah.
And that essentially made the technology useless.
Wow.
So while we built it, I think we were just a bit too early. Now, if we had the advantage of AI and like the advanced in computer vision, I think maybe we could make it work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too late. You could always revive
Maybe,
that. And looking back, what has that experience taught you that you're now sort of injecting into your new startup?
Just now, we both quit our jobs full time to go all in
Which
on
is
startups.
a huge risk to take.
It's a huge risk, but I think it's a necessary risk.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I learned. And the second thing I learned, which we'll touch on later, is the importance of being lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And being lucky is kind of, being at the right place at the right time.
Yep.
So in the case of the shoe tech startup that we were doing, we were too early. Whereas now with Attentv, I feel like we've gotten lucky and AI and computer vision has gotten good enough where we can actually leverage it and,
Yeah.
build a business out of it.
Where did that all happen and what's the birthplace and the trigger for Attentv?
We quit our jobs, and that was like around the start of the year. I think both of us independently wanted to try something new, and we both have a drive to, try something of our own, basically. And so we quit our jobs. We applied for this free co-working space in the State Library, and we met up there a couple days a week, and would love to tell you that we already had an idea and we were going to build it from the ground, but we had absolutely no idea.
Wow.
We didn't know what we were going to do. And so we actually, one day we walked around the CBD just trying to talk to different retailers and get an idea of what like pain points were and see if we can solve it that way.
Sorry, you quit your job without having any idea of what you were going to do.
And that's right.
Wow.
No
Yeah.
idea.
No idea.
Yeah.
We're just vaulting ambition to make something work. But how we came up with Attentv was everyone should be familiar with Y Combinator, the incubator overseas, and they have a list of all the businesses that they've helped start up. I think there's hundreds on there. So we were scanning through that, seeing if that could spark any ideas, and we came across one which we thought would work really, really well in Australia. And that's how we came up with Attentv, which is basically working with hospitality venues like pubs and sports bars and looking at how we can dynamically insert appropriately timed hyperlocal ads on the TVs that they already run. And the kind of the reason why we really wanted to do this was these venues, like local venues, especially after the COVID era, they've been struggling. And so trying to give them another source of revenue and income was kind of why we really wanted to do this. So we literally walked around different venues and said, would you be interested in this? Like the reason why we're asking is because we want to help you guys. We want to give you some passive income. And yeah, that's how we came up with it.
Sounds like a huge undertaking.
Can I actually tell you some of the ideas that we came up with
Yes, please.
prior to us
That didn't make
starting
the cut.
Attentv?
Yeah.
So, as Justin said, we had no idea what we wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
So we probably spent a month or so just brainstorming different
Yeah.
ideas.
So we're consultants. So we think frameworks, we think structure, and so we came up with these silly structures where like it needs to meet this criteria and this criteria and this criteria. And I think what we narrowed it down to was it should be a commoditized product, something that people would just regularly buy, but it's got to be unique. We've got to add some uniqueness to this commoditized product.
And it has to be unsexy.
Okay.
We were looking for unsexy products.
And so the headline of maybe this could be an idea was turning something unsexy sexy.
Why unsexy particularly?
Because no one thinks about unsexy products.
No.
Like if you think about Koala, the
Yes.
furniture brand, or Eva, they revolutionized furniture. And furniture is not inherently like a sexy, cool
No.
thing, shiny thing, right? Uber, they turned a business out of taxis. No one really thinks about that. So we thought, let's take a commoditized product. Let's make something unsexy. Let's turn something unsexy sexy. And the ideas we came up with were the first one was
Terrible.
rubbish bins. We thought rubbish bins everyone needs a rubbish bin. No one has designed rubbish bins really well. It's a completely unsexy product.
Yeah.
We think we could do it. And then we also thought about
Storage units?
storage units, challenging IKEA.
Yeah.
What else did we have? We had
Something in the health industry, but
we thought about
I don't know.
it was like got like a soft
Pro-
drink for
Oh yeah, probiotic.
probiotic health
Yeah.
using mushrooms.
Anyway, the list goes on.
Yeah.
And they just didn't meet
And
your
they just-
criteria.
Well, they didn't meet the criteria.
Yeah.
But I think that's when our like commercial sense came in,
Yeah.
and we realized rubbish bins really like.
Yeah.
Do people really need sexy rubbish bins? Are people going to buy and pay money for that? I'm not sure.
No.
Also, personally, I don't want to associate myself with rubbish bins, so
But it's unsexy.
it's unsexy and
Yeah.
Just too unsexy.
instinctively makes us unsexy.
Mm.
Okay, so you decided on Attentv. How did you choose the name?
Well, it wasn't our first choice, actually. Our first choice was we wanted the name to be really catchy and memorable. So a couple of options that we had was something around fruit, something juicy. So we had Nectar Media, but it was taken. And so we went through a couple of iterations, and we went through iterations of taking names and then shortening them. So Attentv, the full word, I think is taken. And so we kind of took a couple of letters out of it, and then it kind of worked out really well because it's play on words on attention and attentive, and then Attentv. So I initially didn't like it. I thought it was too hard to say off the tongue, but I think you liked it.
I thought it was I thought it was good.
Yeah. Still today, like people will call it Attentv or Attentv, and we just roll with both. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we also had BlackBerry. Was it BlackBerry?
oh yes,
We had BlackBerry Media, and I think we really liked it. And then someone pointed out that BlackBerry has since become insolvent or like
It has.
wiped itself from existence. So we thought, probably not the best precedent to start off with. Like, yeah, I think those. Yeah, and then we had it was fruit.
So we've got two management consultants taking on a media/tech industry. What were your first steps? Do either of you know how to code? How did you set out to achieve this?
this is a really big opportunity that people would want. So that's what we did. Whether it aligned with our capability or skill set or not, I think we just really wanted to explore if this was something worth chasing after, and then we can bring in the capability later. I think that's where actually our skill, that's part of our skill set, is to go explore, validate ideas, and then
Yeah.
figure out some sort of structure of a way forward. So that's what we did. And like I mentioned before, part of that process was literally just cold calling and walking into bars saying, hey, we have this idea. By the way, that scared the hell out of me. I don't like doing that. Daniel, you were better at it. But that's what we had to do. Like, we had to really put ourselves out there and ask this question. I think over time, we realized buy a beer first, then they're willing to talk. And so we started to now we'd go in and we'd just
Get drunk.
get a couple of beers.
I'll tell you what, publicans are very, very friendly and hospitable people.
They are.
Like, we'll go in there and we'll say, hey, we've got this idea, we'd love some feedback. And they'll be like, come sit down. Do you want a pint? Pint?
Yeah.
Oh.
They hate sales though. So as soon as they get a whiff of you're trying to sell something, then they're going to be like, nah, go away,
So you have
please.
to pitch in the right way.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you validated the problem.
Validated the problem. And this is where the luck component comes in. This is one of our kind of lucky moments is we have no technical background. We knew the skill set that we needed, which is someone technical and someone who understands development, but also like machine learning, enough about machine learning. And I happened to have a friend who quit his job a year earlier to go traveling, and he was still unemployed.
Perfect.
And he's based in New Zealand, but he's a very close friend of mine. And I said, he might work out. We might be able to hit him up.
And Justin's very persuasive.
And I can be very persuasive. So it took a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 goes. At first he was like, that's a great idea, but I don't want to get involved. But I think as we kind of shared how big this opportunity was and that, it could work overseas as well, I think he was interested. And so we said, come on board, we'll have a great team. And that's how we got on the really important capability of someone who's technical.
Did he move to Melbourne?
For a short period.
Okay.
Yeah. He came, so as we were trying to do this pilot and this trial, that he came across to help out. But Warwick's amazing software engineer. And he knows a little bit about the AI and the machine learning component. And we quickly realized that actually that is also a really big part of this business, trying to build an AI engine that's able to detect TV ads. And Warwick didn't have that specific skill set. And so we had to go find somebody. Like we knew our gaps were AI and computer vision and machine learning. Justin and I don't have any experience in hospitality or in the pub and bars industry. So that was another gap we had to fill. And then the final gap was in the advertising and the marketing side of things. We knew that those were once we got Warwick on board, we knew that those were the 3 gaps. So to fill the AI gap, we were just texting people we know. Justin knew a couple of people who were in the machine learning space. So we were trying to talk to them. I was asking for introductions from family and friends, and we were just cold messaging people on LinkedIn.
And how we got to Grant, who is our machine learning engineer, absolute gun, incredibly minded, was through LinkedIn, actually. He found us. And so I think, again, playing on that, increase the surface area of luck is be vocal. Be vocal about your journey if you're starting off something as well. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can share your challenges as well. But I think early on, Daniel and I knew that we should be sharing this and leveraging our network on LinkedIn. So we shared our stories, and I think that's how Grant found Daniel.
I think he came across a LinkedIn post that Justin and I had put up, and then he started following our page on LinkedIn, and I was stalking the followers list just out of curiosity, and I realized, Grant Fulson, machine learning engineer. I thought, oh my gosh, he might be perfect. So we reached out to him. I had that initial conversation with him, and I told these guys after the first meeting with Grant, I said to these guys, Warwick, Justin, I think we found our guy.
Wow.
And then, Warwick met him, Justin met him. We all loved working with him, and that's how he came on board. before I talked about how there was kind of 3 gaps in our capabilities. So we filled the AI and machine learning gap by bringing Grant on board, but we still had no experience in the hospitality pub space. And fortunately, I used to work with I used to work with a guy called Nick Haddad, and Nick Haddad is really intelligent. He was the one that actually came up with the first, I think, version of Google Docs, and he sold it to Google back in
Wow.
the 90s or early 2000s. So he's very, very, very successful, very good with tech and stuff. But his family is also very well connected in the pub space because Nick's father is a guy called John Haddad, and John Haddad was kind of one of the founding fathers of the tourism and hospitality industry in Australia. He was the deputy chairman of Crown Casino when Crown was the biggest casino in the world. And so I pitched this idea to Nick, and he thought, this is a great idea. My family, we're in the public and hotels and hospitality business. We own a pub, on the Mornington Peninsula. Why don't you use our pub as a test ground and just pilot the technology there? Very little risk for you guys. We can collaborate. So Nick came on board as an investor/business partner, which is when we thought, okay, well, we've really got like the pub side of the equation down pat. Now we just need to find advertisers and brands.
It was actually really, really. I think I owe a lot to having Nick on board and the ability to experiment in a live setting of like a pub. I think without that, it would have been really tricky.
For sure.
To test the technology, to make some mistakes, to get the feedback of what it's like in the pub setting. Mind you, Mornington, Mount Martha is actually where the pub is.
Okay.
Is like.
Why did you select that particular pub?
It was just the one that he had available for us, and that's like an hour away.
Okay.
And so we had to travel there and back, I think 3 times a week at some point.
Wow.
And it was tiring. It was so tiring. I think we were there till like 11 p.m. one night.
I think we had to, because we didn't want to disrupt trading period, like dinner time and such. I think we had to come at 9 o'clock in the evening so that we could install the tech without disrupting the screens. And then by the time we finished, it was close to 1 a.m., I think.
Yeah.
And then it was another hour back. So by the time I got to bed, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So Josh and I partnered with developers in Warwick and Grant to fill our gap in the pub space. We partnered with Nick. To fill our gap in the advertising and marketing side, we're trying to partner with media agencies and media buyers as well as brands who want to advertise through these networks. But I think for me, I realized that to be successful in a startup, it's almost impossible to do it alone. You need to build relationships and collaborations and partnerships with people. You need to make those partnerships a win-win, like a win-win situation because, I think everyone at the end of the day is in it for themselves. And so if there's no benefit to the other person, I think it's always tricky. So we've been we've thought about how we can generate partnerships that are collaborative and that where everybody benefits.
Definitely. That ties nicely into your surface area of luck, which I really like. Are there any other key nuggets of gold you found on that journey in relation to service?
So we talked about capability gaps, and to start off with, we had basically more gaps than the right capability. We talked about how we can fill that through partnerships and finding the right people. I think the other aspect of that was we really had to put ourselves out there and get out of our comfort zones to start to learn these things, because there are things that we ourselves needed to understand and build our own capability on. So we're not technical, however, we needed to understand how these AV setups were done in the pubs. And so we had to understand what the hell a modulator was, because we had no idea to start off with. We don't even know if that's what they're called, but apparently that's what it's called. We had to understand how these were wired to all these different TVs, and each venue has a different wiring system. And so we had to understand
course.
how this is different from the previous ones. And so there was a huge learning curve of even understanding how are we going to work with these venues. And then on the other side of this marketplace, which is the advertising and the media side, is how do these people even like to work? How do they want to buy and sell these services? And so we need to understand their language. We need to understand how they like to operate and what measurements they care about and what KPIs they care about. So a big part, and we're still doing this, is talking to people, interviewing people, doing our research to figure out and to build our own capability around what the hell do we need to do, who do we need to know, and how do we actually then lead on to forming the right partnerships and making everyone on all sides happy. Yeah.
So on this point, so AV systems at pubs are highly, highly complex. And post the trial, Nick introduced us to a different pub owner. And the pub was in the Frankston area. And we got there, and Justin and I, we have zero AV background. And we were trying to connect up our technology to the AV system that had 1,000 wires going 1,000 different directions with 10 different boxes. And we didn't know what half the boxes were doing. And or even if half the boxes were working or live.
But we had to convey to these guys that we knew exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
So
And not just playing around.
I was looking at the stuff and I was like, oh yeah. That makes sense. I can understand that. And this guy has no idea what his own setup is either. So that's like the context of it.
And I distinctly remember in our first meeting with the owner, he said, I really love what you guys are doing. This is a great idea. Just don't fuck it up. So Justin and I, we were in this venue trying to connect up our system. No, not the pilot.
okay.
This was the next venue that we wanted to install at. He said to us, great, love it, but just don't fuck it up. And Justin and I, we have zero background in AV. So we were like, as Justin was saying, we were saying, oh, yeah. No, we totally understand. And in reality, we had no idea. And it came to a point where we disconnected a single wire in this entirely convoluted and messed up wiring system. And for some reason, all the TVs in the venue stopped working and they stopped showing content. And I remember just sitting there with Justin and we were like, oh my God, what have we done? We don't know what's going on. We don't know why these TVs aren't working. And this was on a Wednesday and their busiest night is a Friday. And so we had to figure out how the hell we are going to fix this system. So it kind of goes back to trying to find people and building partnerships with people to fill gaps. We have zero background in AV setups. So we were frantically just trying to find AV technicians who has knowledge of pub AV setups to come with us to fix it and then in the future come with us to install our technology.
Okay.
And we tried looking on Fiverr. I think I put out an ad on Airtasker. I put an Instagram story up and none of them hit. And then as just like a final last ditch effort, I thought, I'm just going to try and search AV technicians on LinkedIn. And the first guy that came up, his profile pic was open to work. And in his title, he had AV technician. So I thought, please just like, God, please let this guy be the right guy. I messaged him and he said, yeah, I'm free tomorrow. I can come by the pub and I can check it out for you. And he was perfect. He was the perfect guy for the job. Yeah. And he fixed it
and he's still with us.
He's still with us.
With all the other venues that he's setting up. Yeah.
I think it kind of goes back to being lucky. Yeah. Yes, there was an element of luck, but we created our own luck by, doing the research, reaching out to people,
making mistakes, learning from the mistakes.
Yeah. A really important thing, actually, that a mentor told me was when it comes to startups, you have to be shameless and you just have to ask for help and you have to just like message people and be afraid of getting rejected. Don't be afraid of getting rejected. And I think that concept has stuck with me personally of just, when it comes to startups, you have to be shameless and put yourself out there as much as possible.
On that point, what has the transition been like?
I think there are things that we've learned from our consulting that have kind of paid off in the startup journey. The kind of attitude of fake it till you make it is still very true for me anyway. is we still have no idea what we're doing. It's very ambiguous. We don't know if this is going to work out, what challenges we're going to come into, but it's that sense of whatever happens, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way to figure it out. And in consulting, you get taught that from day one.
Yeah.
You know, they say you have zero capability, but you have to act like you have all the capability in the world to solve problems.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of carries through quite strongly. So fake it to make it is a big thing that we're taking on. The industry that we've chosen to create a startup in is super complex. For various ways, I think one way is what we've created is a marketplace, and so we're needing to work with venues for the supply side, and we're needing to work with advertisers for the demand side. And so naturally, that kind of an example of that is like Uber Eats, where they work with venues and they work with customers. Another one is Airbnb, things like that. It's like trying to build the business by playing the seesaw game of increasing the numbers of customers from both sides. Now, places like Uber Eats was easy because they could leverage Uber, but we have nothing to leverage. And so we had to really figure out, and we're still figuring out, how can we build a marketplace with no sort of reputation? And that's kind of the main challenge that we've been going through. But we're really getting there. We're getting really close to building it up. And our answer to that initially was we need to do both. We can't just build up the supply side and then not pay attention to this the demand side. So we've got to do both. But now we've reached a point where we've brought on enough venues and got enough partnerships on the venue side to then really flick the switch and try bring on the advertiser side.
And what's that process been like? How have your engagements with advertisers gone? Are they open to this new business model?
Yeah, we've had. So interestingly, the challenge has. I think the bigger brands that have the marketing teams and the marketing budget to spend on advertisements see a lot of value in it. So we've had kind of big like NRL teams, and we had a big retailer approach us, and I think we're meeting with another retailer next week. They've been more willing to try things out, whereas the other segment of the market that we're targeting is local businesses, because we want to give local businesses an opportunity to market their services in their local areas at their local pubs. Those have been a bit harder because I think local businesses inherently, when they think marketing, they need to see a return on investment. And outdoor advertising or out-of-home advertising is inherently tricky to calculate ROI because it's really based on impressions and foot traffic. Whereas on ads on social media, you can actually track conversions.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to see the return on investment from every dollar of marketing that they put towards marketing. So that's been a challenge that we've been trying to deal with.
So if you're a local business out there needing some marketing, some advertising space, we can give you one for very, very cheap.
I think the other challenge or the other complication is not only are we trying to create a marketplace, but it's a hardware play as well, a hardware and software play, because we need to build the hardware, install it at the venues, and then we built the software to do the detection and
and so that hardware is iterating as well. And so we had a very MVP based model, but as we've buying more of these parts, now we're figuring out, actually we don't need this particular unit. We can get it cheaper, or we can do it more customized, etc. But then that has a flow-on effect to then the other aspects as well. Will it still be compatible with the venues? Do we have enough of those units to purchase from our supplier? Things like that. So it's yeah, there's a lot of different variables in it, and that's what makes it really fun.
Touch on the competitive mode. It's acts as our competitive mode as well.
Oh yes.
Actually, was that?
No, it's not on our thing, but we can talk about it. So I think so the concept of what we're doing, which is knowing when an ad break comes on live TV and then being able to switch the channel of the TV and then switch back when the ad break's over. That concept might sound easy to follow or easy to replicate, but what we've built behind it to be able to do that live and kind of build the library of getting better at detection and do it across different channels and different times and schedule different ads at certain times. That's kind of the complexity and the technical moat that we've built. And so we reckon our strong point is around there of it not being able to be easily replicated. Because it's hardware, it's software, it's cloud, it's all the basics that all these modern technologies are kind of touching on. So, yeah.
So the complexity in the business is probably a two-sided, it's a double-edged sword. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to get off the ground. But I think once you're up and running, you've built your moat, it's very hard for other competitors to come in and copy what we're doing. Because we've built the hardware, we're installed at a venue already. Will a competitor come into the same venue and say, hey, we can do the exact same thing? Probably not.
I constantly remind myself that even though it's a technology business, it's actually more, what's more important is that it's a people business because we're dealing with people on all sides of the table. And what we've learned from that is we need to make it a really easy user experience journey for the venues that we get into and for the advertisers that we want to work with. And so making it super easy and super simple has been a lesson that we've learned along the way. A good story is there was a pub that we really wanted to work with. The owner said, hey, we love their idea, just come and set it up. But we kind of made a mess of it because we kind of came in on different days with different objectives and different agendas, and through that it kind of diluted the experience, and I think we felt like we could have done that much better. We could have made it much easier for him, come in one day and said we can do all this on the one day, and then next time we come in, this is what we knew, and that's going to be it. But we didn't really do that, and I think that's been one point of refinement that we've done for the subsequent venues, and I think we've had much more success rate with those venues in terms of the setup.
I think it was a really good. It was a really good learning experience for us because it emphasized how important simplicity in onboarding is. And if it's not simple and it's too complicated and there's too many steps, customers just aren't interested. So it was painful, but it was a good experience that we went through.
Yeah, and maybe that's probably the difference between like consulting and the startup world is, for me in consulting, it was about the depth and the detail of what you're doing so you can reinforce and back up, the evidence of what you're going to say or write. And I kind of tried that as the startup word, saying, hey, here's how smart and how much research I've done. But they really don't care. They don't give a shit.
No.
It's just like, make it really easy for us. I've already got so much on my plate. I don't care the research that you've done. Just give me 3 lines.
And what am I going to get out of this, I guess?
Exactly.
What's the benefit to them?
I often say that the founder relationship is very important and is often similar-ish to a romantic relationship where you are together a lot of the times. You almost see each other every day. You see each other at your worst, at your best. And how are you navigating that? Especially both being management consultants with, it probably helps. You probably think similarly. But I imagine being out of work, stress, you've got a year to achieve something. How has it been working out?
So I see Justin more than anybody else in the world right now.
Not even your partner?
More than my partner, more than my family. I don't think I talk to anybody more than Justin. It's so at the start, because we came from very similar backgrounds, and I think we had very similar kind of ambitions and personalities, we butted heads a lot. And Justin rightfully pointed out at the beginning that like the founder relationship is the most important, and it's kind of like the make or break. And we realized that we kept just like butting heads. We just kept having a different view of how things should be. And how we got over that was two things. One was being very, very clear on what our domains are. I think, in startups, as a founder, you have to do everything. But being very clear that, Justin is responsible for XYZ, I'm responsible for XYZ, and that, Justin has a call, he can make a call on this, I'll make a call on that, and we just have to trust each other on that. I think that was a really important expectation to set up front. Do you want to talk about the like transparency, just like being very open?
Yeah, and again, from early on, we made it really clear that we need to be transparent with each other. And so when we felt frustrated or we recognized the other person might be frustrated, we'd call that out and say what's going on. The reason why that's really important is the way you convey something might be different from the way that it's interpreted by the other person. And so being on the same page of, hey, this is actually what I meant by what I said, or actually, I know you meant this, but it was conveyed like this. And just knowing that you can build kind of your library of, oh, Daniel said this, but I know he means this. It's actually really important. And so today, when we're talking and we might have different views, it's quicker to align and be like, actually, I can understand where you're coming from, or I know he meant this, so he means no harm, sort of thing. But that's taken time. That's not just happened. That's taken time, but it's also taken hard work in terms of honest conversations to be able to get there. Time alone won't get you there,
No.
but it's the ability to pause and say, what's going on? What do you mean by this? I'm feeling this way. What should we do about it, sort of thing? Yeah.
It's that willingness to be really like transparent and honest with each other.
Yeah.
So Justin and I, it got to a point where we actually had to sit down.
What was the trigger? What happened? Can you think of one specific conflict that really clarified that you needed to talk it out?
I cannot remember. It would have been little trivial things. It's like when you're in a relationship, you're always fighting. You're fighting about little trivial things, right? And eventually it just adds up and adds up and adds up, and you get to a point where, oh shit, like you end up in a big fight. We were at a pub. One of the pubs that we were at, we really struggled with at the beginning. After we met the venue manager, he kind of, we had come by multiple times, and eventually he got tired of us and he fobbed us off, and we just sat in the car. And when it comes to challenges, my immediate reaction is to go into solution mode and figure out, all right, what do we need to do next?
We were in the car. And we literally just got out, and we were both frazzled because we were like, oh my God, we had an opportunity and we think we lost it. And so in that moment, Daniel was like, all right, we've lost it. Let's figure out what went wrong. And between you and me, let's figure out the things that you did wrong, I did wrong. We're similar in terms of the way that we think, but we're very different in terms of
how we process
how we process things. But also because we're different in how we process things, we like to focus on different areas of the same challenge, for example. And I think that kind of played out in this particular issue where a challenge had happened, it didn't work out, and now we're trying to figure out of a way forward. And then we're focusing on different aspects of how we can move forward. And it was just, yeah.
I think you're probably more people orientated, and you think, okay, well, what was the experience that we gave to the venue manager? And I'm much more, I guess, like action orientated. So I immediately thought, okay, what do we need to do next? Like, what are the things? If we've lost this, then why have we lost it? What do we need to do next? What do we need to do what do we avoid in the future? So that was like an example. And I think, that might have been the trigger for it. And we literally just sat down and we said, look, something's not working. We obviously have very different styles in terms of how we like to work, and also our ambitions and motivations for why we're doing a startup.
Okay.
And so over a couple of beers, we just talked through all of it and made sure that we were on the same page. And at the end of the discussion, we said, okay, I think we're on the same page. and we're really clear on how we like to communicate with each other and how we like to receive communication. I think that was really important, like that transparency, that honesty.
That's amazing. I imagine it was a bit awkward at the time and
It was so
uncomfortable.
Oh, was it?
I felt it was very awkward.
Oh, I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
And how's it been since then? Have you noticed a change?
It's actually, I was thinking about this today. It's actually been really good. I
That's
think,
great.
I don't think we've had any sort of situation like that anymore. And I don't think we needed any sort of conversation like that.
No.
And which is good because like at the moment, momentum and speed is really important. And like having to deal with a dynamic issue is kind of the last thing that you want to do as a startup.
Of course.
So getting that done out of the way like early has been a really big blessing. And now we can just focus on building the business and getting the outcomes.
Yeah, and I guess it would be good to reevaluate every couple of months, just do a sense check of how things are going.
Yeah.
So you're both in the thick of things, and it's rare that I'm speaking to founders who are currently founding. Often we're reflecting on what's happened in the past. What's next for you? What do you have on the horizon over the next few months?
Yeah, so because we're building this marketplace, we're trying to get that flywheel going. So we're trying to build up a critical mass of venues as well as advertisers that we want to partner with, so that it kind of feeds off each other. So we're continuing on with that, and we're continuing to try and form partnerships with people. So partnerships with businesses and people who can introduce us to venues, partnerships with people who can introduce us to advertising clients. I think that's the future of our business, collaborating with others and making it work for everybody in the ecosystem, including broadcasters as an example. Like we've really, from the outset, from the beginning, we've said we want to be working with broadcasters. We don't want to be seen as undercutting them or getting any free lunch from this. We think there's a very strong value proposition for broadcasters as well. So we'd like to eventually get into a point where we can collaborate and partner up with them too.
Great.
So the flywheel keeps turning. We need to keep building that flywheel until we get to a point where the business is just running by itself.
Yeah, we're about to approach one big milestone for us, which is hitting 1 million impressions
Wow.
from our venue side space.
Congratulations. What is an impression?
So an impression is like a measure of how the advertising industry interpret, your ads being viewed, basically. And so our way of impression is, and so that's what it is. An impression has your ad been viewed by how many people? So 1 million impressions would be it's been viewed 1 million times, or that's been the impact of it.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah. So 1 million in 1 month, I should probably be clear. Yeah.
Wow. So the scope for this is massive.
Yeah.
When it's scaled.
We think this is huge potential.
Yeah.
I think it's big enough that everybody in the ecosystem can benefit from this.
Definitely across the board.
Mm.
Do you have any parting words for other current or future budding entrepreneurs?
Should have asked us this. Think about this one.
Parting words.
Mine would be, it sounds cliche, but mine is don't be afraid to take the risk. If you really believe in an idea, I think go for it. Go through the process of validating it. And then if there is a proposition there, I think you take the risk. And when you're taking that risk, I think you've just got to be shameless. I think I'm going to say what my mentor told me. You have to be shameless, put yourself out there, and just take a chance and back yourself.
I like that.
Mine is probably related. Mine is there's a story in everything. And so whatever way that the business goes, good or bad, there's a really strong story to tell. And so it's kind of encouraging words to say, yeah, do take that step and see what you can learn and reflect on it. And just have fun.
Have fun.
I guess. That's why we're doing this.
Of course.
It's not really fun in the moment, but it's gonna be fun. Yeah.
It will. My key takeaways are expanding your surface area of luck, be shameless, and have fun. Also, have those frank and awkward conversations together to solve things. I wish you both all the best. I'm very, very keen to watch Attentv from afar, and I'll support where possible. But yeah, good luck, and thanks for being with me today.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
This is Fail Tales, real stories and real lessons. If you enjoyed this episode, share with a friend and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the full episode on YouTube and make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn to see more clips and get behind the scenes content. Bye.